Hello everyone and welcome back to an AFC North Divisional preview, aka my torment and suffering video. Now, my dad Tony here's with me and he's probably going to chuckle a little bit behind the screen so you don't see him, but he knows how much this is going to torment me today. Isn't that right?
Yeah, you're not happy with a couple of the decisions from your team, so.
Yeah, I might be angrier at one team more in particular.
Well, then let's get into it. We'll start off with the Ravens.
The Baltimore Ravens, and they had a very interesting offseason. They really didn't bring anyone in. They did bring in Cooper Rush, DeAndre Hopkins, Jair Alexander, really some two buy-low guys and a backup quarterback. They let Patrick McCarry walk, Brandon Stevens, Malik Harrison, Tre'Davious White, who I forgot was even signed to them at one point last year, and they cut kicker Justin Tucker, so a whole new thing in Baltimore, and there's not a whole bunch to talk about here because they didn't lose anyone real important. Tucker has a history of being a great kicker in the NFL, but last year it was clear maybe it was time to move off him. So, do you really have anything to comment on guys they lost or added?
Well, I think this is just kind of, par for the course for teams that are up in the upper echelon. They've been great at drafting for the past several years. So they're going to lose more players to higher contracts than they're going to bring in, right? And so this is just another instance of it. So with the contracts that they have to pay out on their team to keep their players, they're going to let some people walk, and then they're going to bring in filler players. So, but where they really do it is in the draft. I mean, that's just the way it's been for them for, like I said, for quite some time now.
That's just pretty much, though, every team in the AFC North. That's just kind of a philosophy.
Yeah, I'd say that there are a couple teams. I mean, one team doesn't spend it all. One team, I would say, is not afraid to bring in anybody for an exorbitant price. The Ravens, they develop within, and Pittsburgh develops within. So, neither one's going to go out and spend a ton of money on it. And it's just because they draft so well with the Bengals. They're just not going to go out and spend a bunch of money, period. So
the Bengals are and I don't know if you know this, the Patrick Star meme that's I got $3 and he holds up the $3 bills to buy something.
Yeah, it's sad. But let's get into the draft because this is where the Ravens, make their living. So,
do you remember what I texted you when the Ravens were on the clock in the first round?
Oh, you mean that they'd probably take Malachi Starks?
I think I said, and I quote, "I hate this effing team," and then you sent me back a question mark. I said, "Look who's on the board." And then it was who was on the board. Malachi Starks. Yeah.
But that's the thing. They're so balanced that they can take. They're one of the few teams in the NFL they can literally take the best player available, right? And so they have a tendency to do that. And they don't mind taking players that might have a little baggage to them because they come in, they were put into their system. And they toe the line.
Yep, and that'll be very key for the second round pick that we're going to talk about here in a second. But Malachi Starks, this was a guy we both thought should have been thought of much higher than he was. I think we both had top 10 grades on him, if I'm correct.
Yeah, it's just the positional bias, right? People don't draft safeties as high as other positions, right? And it's unfortunate because, literally they're the captains of the secondary, and a good safety will save you.
Yeah, and I don't get the teams who don't value the safety position because you look at the teams who value it, they're usually teams playing deep into January, playing in February, because they realize how important that position is. And if Malachi Starks is as good as we think he is, this has got to be the best safety duo in the league.
Oh, by far.
Kyle Hamilton, I was not as high on him in his draft process. I thought he was a little too slow. He's proved me wrong. He's been a phenomenal safety. And with Malachi Starks now, you're just freeing up Kyle Hamilton, do whatever Kyle Hamilton wants to do.
Well, I think though that with speaking of Hamilton, though, I think coaching matters and position matters, right? You didn't like how he was being played in college, and even the first year in with the Ravens. I mean, he looked like he might be a bust. But then the defensive coaches kind of sat down, evaluated, and the next thing you know, he's lights out. So coaching matters. I mean, there's just no doubt about it.
And Malachi Starks, we just had such an astronomical grade on him. We compared him to Brian Branch. I compared him to Minka Fitzpatrick. Just you watched him play, and it was just like he's just like the next great safety in the NFL. Now, we move on to the second round pick, and this is when we have to be very careful with what we say, because everything we're about to say is strictly his on the field prowess. We are not as informed as other people about the off the field issues. Obviously, the Ravens felt comfortable enough to draft him in the second round. I don't know what that says about anything. We both thought this guy was one of the better edge rushers in this draft class.
Oh, 100%. Talent-wise, he is. And that's what I had said earlier is like they're not afraid to take a chance on a player because they input them into their system with the way their leaders are, and usually the players toe the line.
I think since like Terrell Suggs, this is the most intimidating Ravens pass rusher I've seen them have. Like, his bend coming off the edge is freakish. His speed coming off the edge is freakish. He's not a power rusher. No, he is a really quick guy with a phenomenal first step and that can just get by offensive tackles. I think he's going to excel a lot his rookie year, especially when he's just a plug-and-play guy on a really talented defense already.
Yeah, for the most part. I mean, I'm not sure where they're going to have him on the depth chart, but I have a sneaking suspicion that he'll probably be in their third down package just to rush the quarterback.
Yeah, and Baltimore, they have some guys that their contracts are about to expire at the edge position. So what do? They draft someone, they're going to develop him for a year, and then next year he's really going to take off. He might not do a whole bunch this year, although I think he will. It's just a very much developing the players they get in, give them a year to mature in the NFL.
Absolutely. So next up is, an offensive lineman, and they do like to draft their offensive lineman, right?
Emory Jones was a guy I struggled with just because I never felt like he got the attention to really dig deep into him, because LSU's offense line was so amazing last year. It was probably the best offense line in college football. And a lot of that you point out to, hey, they had the 4th overall pick, I believe it was, in Will Campbell, and other guys got lost in the shuffle. Emory Jones was a guy that didn't really have to deal with a whole lot because people would pressure from the interior because LSU's tackles are usually so stout. Drafting a tackle from LSU is a pretty good idea just because they know how to develop that position very well. They get in the league consistently. It's a very good route to success. Emory, I don't have a whole lot, like I said, because he was just someone that you really didn't see a whole bunch of because teams didn't attack him as much as they attacked the interior of the line.
Well, I just think that, in my opinion on him, I think that he is going to be what they need so far as a run blocker. He's a great run blocker, right? So, hopefully they can develop his pass, his pass protection. But I mean, run blocking right now, he's really effective at.
And what do the Ravens love to do more than anyone else?
Well, I mean, you got a guy right now back there, Derrick Henry. I think we looked the other day and he was like 66 years old. You've been trying to get him out of the league for 50 years, but he just still dominates.
He will fall off at some point, and I'll just say I was never wrong, just early.
There you go. Do you know much about Teddy Buchanan?
So Teddy Buchanan, how do I format this? I loved some of his film. The film I loved was the UC Davis stuff. At Cal, I think he struggled a bit. Definitely a step up in competition, got him early on. down the stretch, he really settled in, and he was first-team All-ACC linebacker. He's got some really good quick read movements. He comes downhill, plays very physical in the run game. I question him in the pass defense. I don't think he can drop back in coverage yet, but he's going to be that downhill linebacker that Baltimore prioritizes and tries to develop every single year.
That's what they like to do. They like to definitely play downhill. Carson Vinson, the offensive tackle out of Alabama A&M, he is what he is, right? He's a very trade C developmental offensive tackle.
He is, as I put in my notes, and mind you, when we talk about FCS players, oftentimes the guys who make the NFL, they stand out, they look bigger. If you watched him against some of the other guys in the FCS level, he looked like a giant out there.
Bilal
Cohn, thank you very much. So, he is not someone who will be playing at all this year. He suffered a torn ACL and MCL in camp. It's during the game. Thoughts are with him. Talented guy that I think has potential to become a nickelback in the NFL. Obviously, we won't see how much he develops this year because of that injury, but a guy I really do like moving into nickel at some point.
I like him on the outside. I mean, he's, rangy and primarily that's where he played in college. So I kind of, the way they guard their edges, particularly, I think that he's probably slated for an outside cornerback. But I mean,
I like him because he's willing to go downhill and play the run at the nickel position. Because that's what I look at for the nickel guys. I like the psychopath that's not afraid of that.
Yeah, but if it's not a position that he's used to, hey, guess what? They got their kicker next, right? Their replacement for one of the greatest kickers in NFL history.
So Tyler Loop, talk about one of the most erratic kickers I've ever seen. He might have the best leg in the NFL for just sheer power. That dude can boot it from a mile wide. The problem is you don't necessarily know where it's going to land. And I have concerns that he's going to miss some kicks early. And you know how kickers are. They get in their heads, and it just snowball effects. Talented guy with a major leg is just not consistent.
LeJohn Stay Wester, and I hope I pronounced that somewhere close to correctly.
He will be a punt returner. That's pretty much with what he did at Colorado. You look at him, I believe he was returning punts in the preseason game. That's where they value him at.
Well, and there we go. And then Aeneas Peebles, I like him. I really do. I was surprised that he went in the 6th round.
I think a lot of people struggled having a good firm grasp on that Virginia Tech front seven because Peebles and the edge, and I'm blanking on his name, went later than I thought they both would. Talented guys. I think he's mainly a run-stuffing guy. I don't see much pass rush upside with him.
Well, he had 25 pressures last year amongst ACC defenders.
It's ACC offensive lines.
I know, but still, I mean, that's still pretty impressive. So
I will say his best game was probably against the best ACC offensive line in Miami, so there could be something there.
Still in the 6th round, what did they have? They had 5 6th-round picks. Once again, they let their players go, and they always get compensatory picks. And so Robert Longerbeam, I think that is like such a cool name. I don't know anything about him, but his name is cool. So, good on him.
Rutgers, what do you entirely say? Very good athlete. He has a 4.39 40, 10-yard dash. Well, the 10-yard split was a 1.5, 3-cone 6.76. So this could be the nickel guy that they like.
Okay, and yeah, sounds it. And then in the 7th round, Garrett Dillinger. Yeah. So I'm assuming developmental guard. Another LSU guy, right?
LSU offense lineman. Now he got tested a good bit, and here's the thing: do I trust him in the NFL as a pass pro? No, I don't think his hands are good enough there. LSU had a good enough offensive line. They were able to help him out, negate a lot of those issues in pass pro. But like you said, with LSU, they like to run the ball. He was a very good run blocker. I have him in my notes, and this was his listed weight at the combine, was 6'5", 320. He is a big dude. That was his combine weight. His playing weight's probably much bigger.
Wow. That's a big boy.
Yep. Big guy, strong. So, I don't want to sound too, meh on the Ravens, because you'll hear more or less what I think about them later on when we really talk about how this division will play out. Just, they feel leaps and bounds above everyone else in this division right now.
Yeah, I would agree to that. In my opinion, and of course we'll talk about it when we're doing the picks, but I think that there's only one team that even really poses a threat right now, and they've got enough issues as well. So
yeah, I don't want to say because weird stuff happens in the NFL. Like Lamar Jackson gets hurt, this can be an entirely different conversation, but if you had me place money on a team I was 100% confident would win their division, it'd be the Baltimore Ravens.
I would tend to agree with that 100%.
Now, moving on to Cincinnati, and I've never been this mad at a division rival's offseason before, and I don't know if it's because I'm more or less looking at this from a different perspective than I used to. I was looked at as a fan first, but as I'm growing to this, I'm trying to look more as a journalist first, whatever you want to call this, a content creator first when I look at football. And they made me so angry this offseason. If you want to hear me really unload it, because I got most of it out when I recorded my Bengals preview episode, I can't get behind Payne T and Jamar as much as they did. I just can't. They're both extremely talented players, do not get me wrong. I would argue they were at worst 2 top 15 wide receivers in the NFL. But I don't think doing something no one else has ever done is the smartest move for the Bengals to take.
Especially when you have other players that are looking to be paid and the cupboard is bare.
Yeah, I understand you wanted to appease Joe Burrow. I get it. Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, phenomenal football players. But you look at a team like New England. Are you telling me you couldn't get a nice draft haul, maybe sending Higgins to New England? I know you were preaching that for a long time.
Oh, gosh, yeah.
Because it made logical sense. Here's the problem. We tried to use logical sense with the Cincinnati Bengals front office. Didn't work. Moving on to other free agency moves. They lost Alex Cappa, which I think is addition by subtraction. Would you agree?
At this point in his career, yeah.
Akeem Davis Gaither, Sheldon Rankins, Jermaine Pratt, Trent Brown, Khalil Herbert, who I forgot was on them last year, Trayvon Williams, Mike Hilton, Logan Woodside, Joe Bashi, and Jay Tuifeli. Nothing really major. Sheldon Rankins is a fine, serviceable defense tackle, but he wasn't going to fix the Bengals himself. They need a lot more pieces.
Yeah, and they also brought in other defensive tackles that I think at this stage in their career, so.
Tadaro Slayton and Joseph Osai. I didn't watch a whole bunch of Slayton at Green Bay before I had to do my preview, and I kind of watched him, and I was like, he's just there for me. I don't really see anything, which makes sense. They didn't pay him a whole bunch of money. And keeping Joseph aside, even though it's a one-year deal, he is still young. He is improving. He has showed growth every single season with the Bengals. I just don't really know a whole lot to comment there because anything from that Bengals defense last year that wasn't Trey Hendrickson, you could argue you should throw in the fire.
But, I mean, look at, once again, we talked – excuse me. We talked about it. This team doesn't really spend a lot of money on free agency, right? They don't typically – I mean, you just went on your little spiel about how they overpaid for their wide receivers, and it's hard to disagree with you there. just because between quarterback and your two receivers, you're spending so much money. It does seriously hamper the rest of your team building. But that Slayton, $7 million a year. I mean, that's nothing really, right? And that's their highest contract for bringing in a free agent. And the sad part about it is for this team is they didn't even have a lot of draft picks, right? So they didn't have a lot of draft capital either. And so you're wondering how are they going to offset spending as much money on three players, because you need youth at that time. We talked about it with San Francisco. We talked about it with Baltimore. There's been a couple other teams that we've talked about it that they've had to jettison some large contracts, and the only way that they're going to be competitive is if they can bring in a lot of young players, and the Bengals weren't able to do that because they just didn't have the draft capital this year.
And if we really want to get into deep, their whole drafting philosophy is we don't have enough scouts to scout other positions to find the real diamonds in the rough. So they limit themselves in who they can draft and who they can't.
Yeah.
The Bengals front office, all I'm going to say is it's amazing Joe Burrow got this team to the Super Bowl.
Well, he is pretty special. That's true. So let's jump right into their first overall pick with Shamar Stewart.
He finally signed.
Yeah.
That's around all the positives I got.
Well, here's the thing. Neither one of us know what to expect with him so far as pass rushing, but he's gonna immediately help against the run, right? He was really dynamic against the run in college, and so they need to get Trey Hendrickson in there for that pass rush, because it's him and maybe the ghost, maybe the ghost of Trey Hendrickson in there as well.
At this point, how much of improvement would old man Carlos Dunlap be to the Bengals pass rushing unit?
I love the fact that you just brought that, because I was taking a drink of my beer and I was going to say the exact same thing.
How much worse would their defense be if they had Geno Atkins and Carlos Dunlap out there right now?
Oh man, I bet you Geno can still play, man. I loved him.
Yeah. Shamar Stewart, as you said, can play the run. My whole issue is you draft a pass rusher who never rushed the passer.
And we have talked, a lot of it seems to be that Texas A&M scheme. I mean, look at what Nick Scorton said. He said we weren't told to rush the passer, right? And so I'm not exactly sure why you wouldn't be told to rush the passer, but there you have it.
So with Shamar Stewart, though, the one thing I've said with him is I'd have him put on weight and move him inside. I think he would excel at that way more, because he is someone who is strong. He can be forceful at the point of attack. I feel like that would just suit him more than being an edge rusher.
Yeah, it's possible. It's possible. Their second pick was Demetrius Knight Jr., the linebacker out of South Carolina. I didn't see much of his play, but the games that I did see, he likes to hit people.
He does like to hit people. You know what the problem is, though? He overextends himself a good bit.
Oh, well.
And here's the thing. When you look at that South Carolina defensive line, the front seven, it was phenomenal last year that the linebackers really had free roam to do with what they wanted to do. My question is, do you know how old Demetrius Knight is?
Probably 24.
He is 25 years old.
I was close. As soon as you asked that question, I knew that he had to be older than most players.
Yes, he was a super senior, so he had a lot of college experience. And that's always something that raises my eyebrow when they take so long to really pop. I'm just going to throw back to some NBA real quick. I know this is going to fascinate you. When Buddy Hield was entering the draft and all that talk, and I remember someone say it, when you're a fourth-year senior going against kids, you should be performing at the level Buddy Hield is. Can he do that at the NBA level? Buddy Hield has had a long NBA career. But that brings me to this question. He was a super senior against a bunch of kids. Will he perform at the NFL level?
Well, I mean, only time will tell, right? Obviously, if he was able to play for 6 years, that says something, right? Sometimes you're not going to be a wow factor, but you're solid enough to where you're just going to play. And, you're always looking for linebackers, for special teams as well. So I think that only time's going to tell about him. Interesting, he does have 80.5-inch wingspan. So that's pretty darn impressive.
Yep, that is. This is just boils down to my issue though with the Bengals scouting staff is that they only limit themselves to the power conference players, that they don't look outside of that. And I feel like that's why I have an issue with that pick. I don't think Knight's necessarily a bad player. I just think they limited themselves taking him this early. Third round, actually a pick I like. How much Dylan Fairchild did you watch?
Well, I mean, Georgia, so I got to see quite a bit of him. I like him. I think he's gonna. They always need help at the offensive line because it seems like they're always injured, right? So,
Dylan Fairchild, I liked him. I didn't like him as much as his other guard teammate, but I really do think he was the Bengals' best pick. I'll just say that straight up. Talented guy, has some good reps in pass pro, could still use a work in progress there, but really good in the run game, very physical, good at getting downhill, clearing a path for the running backs, which is key when you look at the Bengals. Chase Brown, very talented as he got more of the bulk of the carries down the stretch. Their Bengals run game really took off compared to how it was previously with Zach Moss. It's really depending on who I think is running the ball there with how good of an impact Dylan Fairchild can have if he does play.
Yeah, I honestly think that he's going to end up starting, right? So I don't think that anybody's going to have him beat out. So we'll see, but I would put my money on him starting,
which I think would be the best course for the Bengals.
Oh, absolutely. I agree. I definitely agree. Barrett Carter, linebacker out of Clemson in the 4th round. I am leery to take anybody from Clemson in the defense.
Yeah. I would also add, though, with Carter, he was the green dot. He was the communicator of that Clemson defense. If you watched a lot of Clemson football last year, you would know how many breakdowns they had in that defense. Now, that could be coaching. We have said our piece about Clemson's defensive coach since Brent Venables has left with producing guys in the NFL. It would not shock me if coaching was a major disruption there. But as you said, just not touching defenders from Clemson.
Yeah, I'm just not a fan, right? In the 5th round, Jalen Rivers, offensive tackle out of Miami.
So, I was trying to find out. So, different sites have him listed at guard, different sites have him listed at tackle, which is fascinating to me because Rivers, I was a tackle at Miami, so I haven't seen the Bengals necessarily say they're playing him at that position. But
they have him second string right tackle right now.
Okay, second string right tackle. That would be behind Amarius Mims, if I'm correct.
That would be behind Amarius Mims.
So, Amarius Mims is a developmental guy who had some issues last year. You look at Rivers, I can't say I love the pick. I can't say I hate the pick. I'm neutral on the pick. I think there's a chance Rivers plays this year, but that's also because I was just not impressed when Mims played last year at all. And with how the Bengals, as you said, offensive line injuries luck is, there's a chance he can be slotted in there.
I think that Mims kind of came around towards the end of the season, though. I mean, he was young, he's developmental, but I mean, you could definitely tell that towards the end of the season, he wasn't getting beat nearly as much. And, so, I mean, was that scheme related? It's going to be interesting to see how everything pans out this year.
So, Taj Brooks. You got anything?
No.
Yeah, I hate being the bad guy here. I hate it. Actually, no, I don't. But, again, this is the Bengals limiting themselves. I didn't watch a whole bunch of Taj Brooks, but to find out if I should or not before the draft process, I went and I looked him up, and I listened to people I respect talk about him, and they all were very much like, well, he's a running back. So, I didn't dig too deep in him, because everyone I listened to was very much like, he'll be a UDFA, he'll enter that part, and then the Bengals take him, and I'm just like, well, so, before we record this, last night, I looked up some Texas Tech games. Boy, their defense sucked, but that's a different story. Texas Tech's offensive running attack was very weird, as in, it felt like I was watching a snail's pace. That offensive line took so long to get their blocks set up. The running back was very patient back there, I would say almost too patient, and it was really weird to watch.
Well, I mean, potentially he makes it, in seventh round, he might make the practice squad. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I want to propose this question because, well, there's a second question I want to propose. But as we talked about, the Bengals don't spend, they don't do this. Should they have traded back with some of their picks to accumulate more draft picks to try and flesh out this roster?
I would have thought that. To be quite honest, at the point where they started having problems with, Hendrickson, I was like, they should probably trade him, and they could have probably got like a second and a third for him. I don't think they could have got a first, but maybe a second and a third, or a second and then swap, a third for a sixth or something like that, and be able to get more talent, more youth, with some good draft capital, but they didn't. And so, yeah, it could be something said for that. If you think about it, I mean, what's to say that they weren't the ones that traded with the Rams, so that traded so that the Falcons could have gotten, their second, and then they would have had another first round pick for next year that they could have even parlayed into more picks in this draft.
Yeah, and I don't want to sound so mean and negative to you Bengals fans, because the honest truth is this team's still really talented. It's just they're kind of like the disappointment child of where the others are excelling, they have a plan, and the Bengals, it feels like they're flying by the seat of their pants.
Well, one thing we'll say before we move on is that, you can say what you want about how some of they're frustrating, but no team wanted to play them in the playoffs last year. And when they didn't make it, I guarantee the whole AFC was like, oh, thank goodness.
I do want to ask
offensively,
one quick question.
That team is scary.
Okay. One quick question. How good of a coach is Zach Taylor?
On to the Browns.
That's the perfect answer. The Cleveland Browns, they might be a watchable football product this year. They weren't last year offensively. Browns, I'm honestly good. Browns fans are going to tell you this. This is the team I'm most excited for in the AFC North, just because I love the direction they're going. And we'll really get into that with the draft they had, because I do love their draft a good bit. But this, I like Andrew Berry's GM. I love Kevin Stefanski as a head coach. I know Steelers fans will say, oh, you can't like them, whatever. I like them a lot. And the job they did in this offseason to really overturn their future, because after that Deshaun Watson trade, it was looking bleak. They gave up a lot of assets, they paid him a lot of money, and, well, it did not turn out good, as Browns fans are well aware. So now we look at this offseason. They let guys walk. They let Dalvin Tomlinson walk. They let James Hudson walk. They let Jameis Winston walk, which kind of was sad. He was fun to watch last year.
He was fun to watch last year.
Michael Ford, they let walk. Juan Thornhill, Elijah Moore. Unfortunately, Browns fans, Nick Chubb's no longer there. They let D'Anthony Bell, Naheem Hines, a lot of guys walk. And that's okay. Why? Because this year doesn't matter. Like, don't get me wrong. They're not going to phone it in every single week. They're not outright tanking. Myles Garrett will not lose on purpose. That I would be afraid to tell him, hey, we're going to try and lose these games. I'd be afraid to see what he would do to me.
Well, that's the thing that I find humorous when especially fans, you see it all the time, tank for, I don't know. Is there a slogan for Manning? Is there a tank slogan for Manning? Because I remember there was tank for Tua, and I mean,
I saw one that said, and this was a while ago, botch for Arch.
Yeah, that was lame. Whoever came up with that one was lame.
Well, I think there's a reason it didn't catch on.
But NFL players don't do that. For one, they're just a play away from their career being over anyway. Not to mention the fact that, they're always playing for another contract as well. And if you're not going to make it on your team and your tape is bad, you can't go and talk to a general manager down the street and say, oh, yeah, well, we were tanking, and so I didn't play very hard. You can't do that, right? So the front office can definitely do things to make it difficult on a team, but players don't tank.
Yeah. The only time I think that can work is if everyone knows the head coach was so toxic and it really it depressed everyone. That's the only time I've seen players who actively looked like they were god-awful get a second chance.
Yeah, I don't even know if I've seen that. I mean, you can definitely tell when players aren't into it like that. But I don't consider that tanking. So, we talked a little bit about, who they let go. They brought in Malik Collins. Neither one of us are Malik Collins fans, really. Joe Tryon, we talked about him in a recent episode. I was incredibly wrong on him.
Same.
Joe Flacco is back for another round. Let's see if he can get some of that magic that he had a couple years ago. Devin Bush, they re-signed him. Cornelius Lucas, I don't know. He'll probably just be for depth. Tevin Jenkins, I will be shocked if Tevin Jenkins actually makes this team. He traveled so much to teams to get a job. I honestly think his career might be over. DeAndre Carter, he's a serviceable player. Jerome Baker, I have always kind of liked Jerome Baker. But once again, they don't have a lot of money, right? So they don't have a lot of money to be able to, to talk about it. They traded for Pickett. So they brought him in, so they've got a lot of quarterback options. They do have 4 quarterbacks on the roster, right? And we'll get into the draft here, but they're another team. We talked about the Saints the other day and how they just can't afford to bring in a lot of players, right? And so you have to make your acquisitions and improve your team dramatically in the draft and hope that you can spot fill in free agency.
So I will comment on Tevin Jenkins. He is currently their backup left guard.
Seriously?
Yeah. I do want to really quick talk about the whole quarterback situation, and I'll lump in the rookies a little here. I'll wait to really go into detail about them when we're talking about the draft. But you look at this Browns quarterback room, and injuries have really hampered it, this training camp process. At the time of this recording, the day of, Shedeur Sanders suffered an oblique injury, so he's probably going to be out for a bit. They brought in Tyler Huntley. they have a lot of quarterbacks. I think it's very obvious of who's making the team and who's not. I think Flacco is going to be the starter week 1. He is not getting any reps this preseason. He has been doing most of the bulk work with the starters in camp. I think it's obvious they're signaling he's the starting quarterback. And why does Joe Flacco need to play in the preseason? He knows the offense. He has been in this offense before, not long ago. He's an old man. He doesn't need to take this abuse. He's the starter. They're not cutting Shedeur, most likely, I don't think. And they're not cutting a third-round pick. Odd man out, Pickett will not be making this team.
I would tend to agree with you there.
So, you ready to jump in this draft?
Haha, absolutely. In fact, I'm going to let you take their first overall pick. We both liked him, but yeah, go for it.
I think there's some context needed this. They had the second round pick and they made a trade down. The Jaguars made a big time gambit and they traded next year's first round pick as well. So Mason Graham, I was a little bit like, okay, how is he going to fit in this Browns like defensive line at first? And I had to think for a bit. And I ultimately was like, he'll do good. He was really good at Michigan. He's next to Myles Garrett. I think it'll be a good fitting, but the highlight of this to me is getting that extra first round pick, because as high as I'm in the Jaguars, I could be dead wrong and they could be at the bottom of the league again. And that's another high draft pick.
Yeah, and not to mention the fact that I do believe that going into next year, they can technically cut Deshaun.
Yeah, I'm not a salary cap wizard, so I can't fully speak on that, but I believe there's a way they can get out of it.
Yeah, I think I'm going to bring up while we're talking here. But yeah, go ahead and talk about Graham a little bit. I'm going to look up his salary cap implications.
So a lot of people's biggest things, and Mason Graham, not Miles. Mason Graham got scrutinized as we got closer and closer to draft. It was like, he didn't have this production. He wasn't like the best at getting after the quarterback. He wasn't the best at getting after the running back. That's fine. He was the safest draft pick. And I know there's no such thing as a safe draft pick in the NFL. I'm well aware of that. But Mason Graham was always a very good football player. Don't you find it funny that if he struggled to get to these guys, he always found the ball? He was always right there by the ball. He always had that nose for the football. He always was battling, causing issues for that offensive lineman that was blocking him, whether it was in a run play or a pass play. I know people say he's not as strong. He looked strong enough to me when he was going against offensive linemen in the Big Ten, a really good offensive line blocking conference.
Yeah, no, most definitely. To get back to Deshaun Watson, next year is not going to be pretty. His base is 46, prorated signing bonus. His cap hit is $80 million. He accounts for 26% of their cap for next year.
So, do you maybe just take that Jaguars first round pick and offer it with Deshaun Watson to someone else?
Yeah, that ain't happening.
I know. I know that's a hockey trade, not a football trade. Here's the lesson, everyone: don't let your crazy owner that makes horrible football decisions make a football decision.
That would probably be a good idea. Hey, so Carson Schlesinger, linebacker at UCLA, a tackling machine.
So I wasn't as high on him as everyone else was, but I saw the upside because he was an athlete that really jumped off the screen when you watched him.
Yeah, I definitely like him, and I think that he's going to give attitude to that linebacking core. So, and their defense, their defense is good, right? So he's just going to be another valuable piece after losing some pieces. Kinshawn Judkins, running back at Ohio State. We'll just say that right now his status is in limbo. At the time of the draft, we both liked the pick.
I was higher on him than you, I believe.
Oh, you were. You believed you put him in your top 3, didn't you?
He was my third-rated running back.
Yeah, and
above
he
O'Marion
wasn't.
Hampton.
Yeah, and he wasn't for me. But I mean, that's just potato. But right now, with what's kind of going on with him, I think we just move on to their third round pick, Harold Fannin, who I really liked.
So, are they going to run two tight end sets, or do you think this is eventually preparing themselves to maybe move off of David Njoku's contract?
Well, they run a lot of 12 personnel anyway. So yeah, they run a two tight end set. The interesting thing though is that typically their second tight end is more of the blocking because Njoku is more of a receiving threat. But I really like Fannin as a pass catcher. I do. So um,
My boy, Dylan Gabriel. I was probably one of the highest people on him this draft class because do you remember how high I had him ranked?
I don't know how high you had him ranked, but I know that you really liked him far better than a lot of quarterbacks that were taken above him. So,
Dylan Gabriel, I had him as my QB3. The Browns also drafted my QB2, but I will say this. If we're talking not build, but just sheer traits, arm talent, Dylan Gabriel has the better arm talent of the two quarterbacks they drafted. This dude can sling it over the field. He reminds me of a more petite version of Russell Wilson because he is smaller, but the dude has a lively arm that can gun it on the field. To me, he was someone I really wanted to see go to a West Coast play action based offense. Well, he goes to the Browns. Kevin Stefanski loves himself some play action. I really do like Dylan Gabriel, and I know everyone is all about Shador getting the starts eventually. I would really like to see Dylan Gabriel, see how he does in the offense.
how about Dylan Sampson, at the running back out of Tennessee? I'll be honest, I don't know a whole heck of a lot about him.
I'll be honest, this dude terrified me as a Florida Gator fan.
No,
I I had a top 10 running back grade on him as well. Loved him. I believe he was the youngest guy in this draft class too. He turned 21 very recently. Actually, wait, no. He doesn't turn 21 until September. So he's not even eligible to drink yet. That shows you how young he is. He is 5'8", not the biggest guy, but he really runs bigger. He has that good lower center of gravity. He can get under people. He can get his shoulder in, and he's just hard to wrestle down. Very talented runner, and if Quinshon Judkins doesn't play this year, which that's so up in the air, he hasn't even signed his rookie contract yet, I expect Dylan Sampson to take the opportunity and run with it.
and finally, you had already mentioned Shador.
Shador, he is, well, let's put it like this. He was the story of the NFL draft, without a doubt.
Oh, absolutely.
Neither of us saw him falling that far. And I think some of it could be his tape grade wasn't as high as people in the media thought. I also think some of it is probably how they handled his draft process. There were a lot of questions there. Is Shador Sanders worthy of a 5th round pick? Yeah, he was worthy most likely of a 2nd round pick because I had a 2nd round grade on him.
I had a 3rd round grade on him.
But we both agree this is good value.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Shador's arm, it's not the most talented arm in the world. Will that be affected in Cleveland weather? Possibly. That's just something that happens. He played fine in Colorado, but Colorado also stops playing there at the end of November. They don't play into December there. So that's to be said. And plus, they're right on Lake Erie. That is windy. That can have more effects to it. Shador. Okay, here's what I want everyone to do when they watch Shador. Remove the last name Sanders. And this goes to the media too, because the media is already talking about this way too much. Shador Sanders was drafted here because he has talent to be an NFL quarterback. But the fact he wasn't drafted earlier tells everyone these teams don't view him as a starter. Do I think he'll get starting reps this season? Most likely, yes. I don't see a team starting Joe Flacco when they're out of the playoff hunt altogether. I expect them to give the young guys a chance. Shador's got talent. And the Browns, I don't think we expect them to be good. I don't think either one of us expect them to be good. let's say Shador puts up good film, good quality film. I don't know if it will be good enough to make you think, well, let's pass and draft a quarterback next year. Let's rock with Shador full time. But with what this can do, when you look at NFL, that you don't know necessarily where teams are going to be picking. Teams can have a quarterback need pop up. I mean, look at the division themselves. The Steelers have been needing a quarterback for many, many years, and they don't pick high enough to get a good quality one. You look at those type of teams, and maybe they'd be willing to give up a third-round pick for Shador because they don't have an answer or they don't have a backup they trust, and they really want to mold Shador into that next guy. Those are stuff you have to look at. A perfect team, I think that, and I thought at one point they were maybe going to draft Shador when he kept them falling, were the Chiefs because Andy Reid loves those projects. Something like that, I could see Shador netting value in a draft pick trade swap, getting a higher pick value than where he was drafted, or if he's just someone that's serviceable and a good Brown for a while, even if he's not the starter, he can be more than a serviceable backup.
That's where I think he's at. I honestly, in my opinion, feel he's a backup quarterback in the league. Once again, you called it when you said that forget about the last name. So take the last name off and then go back and look at his tape. He had receivers that bailed him out more so than what a lot of quarterbacks in college have, right? I mean, he was underthrowing a lot, throwing behind receivers a lot, and part of it, let's face it, he was under a lot of pressure. That pressure does not go away in the NFL, right? It's actually magnified, and the game's faster. So if you're already behind your receivers and underthrowing them, it doesn't make for for a good a promising start to a career. That being said, he's tough as nails. He's not afraid to stick in there and get cracked, right? So, I mean, he's got enough moxie to make the team. I don't think that they would try to I don't think they would try to get him to the practice squad because some owner would be like, hey, grab him, right? So I don't think that they would try that. I believe you're right. I think that they will, stick with 3. They might actually put Pickett on the practice squad.
Is he practice squad eligible? I'm always confused how that rule changes.
He'll be practice squad eligible as a vet, as a vested vet.
Okay. Well, that answers that. And like we said with the Browns, it's really not about this year. They're not going to be that good. But you kind of have to have a lot of faith in the future. As long as Jimmy Haslam doesn't Jimmy Haslam it, they're going the right direction.
Well, the one thing that I will say that I am really, really happy about, and you know this, I'm a Stefanski fan. I think that he has been sold just a raw bill of goods in Cleveland because, he has done remarkably well for what they've tried to do to him. And so I will say that I'm impressed that they have kept him on instead of the old adage, oh, if you can't win, I'm getting rid of you, because we had seen a lot of coaches go through there before. So the fact that he's still in there and still coaching, and I like the defensive coach. And so I do like their coaching staff. And, if they can string together a couple of drafts and get out of 26% of your cap is by a guy that's not going to play football for you, that's just so bad.
Like I said, they'll be in a good spot as long as Jimmy Haslam doesn't Jimmy Haslam it.
Yeah. So, all right. On to the featured program of tonight's event. We'd like to bring you to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Jordan, I would like to ask you how you want to start with this. Do you want to start with free agents, or do you want to start with the draft? Because I know you have issues with
everything.
With everything. So I'm going to kind of sit back here and kind of just let you go off and do your thing. It's 9:38, so you can do your rampage until 9:42.
Okay. First off, I'd like to start with an alcoholic beverage. Listen, you know what the smartest thing in the world to do is? Hey, we don't have a quarterback. Hey, let's bring in old man Aaron Rodgers, who can't move anymore in the pocket, whose arm is not the same as it once was, and oh yeah, is a freaking idiot. This team, it just picked and prodded me all offseason long. They make the DK Metcalf trade. I was like, okay, that's good. I kind of like that. Oh, they're paying him how much? I like that a lot less. Okay, you let Justin Fields walk. I'm not a Justin Fields guy. I'm okay with that. Russ, I understand. Hey, let's go the young direction. Let's go. Okay, Mason's in here. Okay, fine. I'm okay with Mason. This team does not need to contend for the playoffs. They do not. You bring in Aaron Rodgers. Great, lovely. Oh, let Najee Harris walk. You heard me on this channel for many years. I'm not a Najee Harris fan. It's nothing against him as a player or person. He was just never worth that first-round pick. Then they just draft a guy I actually like. I'm saying I was pretty happy with that. Then, they just kept on poking and prodding with this defense. They traded away my favorite player, Minkah Fitzpatrick. Fine, I understand that. You want to get younger. Okay, who'd they bring in? Jonnu Smith and Jalen Ramsey. Why? And I see people saying, the Steelers secondary is better than last year. No, it isn't! The Steelers have no one to take away the deep plays in the secondary. You're in a division with the Bengals, with the Ravens. Maybe the Browns. Joe Flacco's going to come out there like Steph Curry and launch it over your head for a fun hour. I hope this team sucks. Before we really get into it, I hope they suck because they need something to change. I don't know if that's removing Tomlin. I don't know if that's removing other people from the organization. Something needs to change because they are right now acting like cavemen trying to make rocks work together when you just need to update your philosophy. This draft class, I don't want to be disrespectful with what's gone on with some of the players. I understand they've had some difficulties. Their first pick was compared to a guy who didn't even try in college. Then they have a guy I really like. The next pick after that they're going to put him at the wrong position. That's clear as day. The other guy, not the best athlete in the world, can't really move side to side. The next pick, a guy I had listed that will be playing the CFL here sooner or later. The next pick, a nepotism draft pick. And then Kent, who can't really say anything about it. I didn't really watch much of him. Yeah, you want to jump in now?
Yeah, so I'm glad that you actually did that in under 4 minutes. So good on you.
My blood pressure was spiking. I felt my pulse.
I know. I could kind of tell. You bring up and you pay a lot more attention to the Steelers Twitter and everything else. But you mentioned a couple times in there that they wanted to get younger. However, bringing in Aaron Rodgers and Darius Slay and trading for, it does not make them younger, right? It makes them, I wouldn't even say that in some of those instances it makes them more known, right? Because I think that Minkah was one of the best safeties in the league. The only reason why maybe they got rid of him is because he's a little outspoken. And maybe he didn't appreciate the direction that they were going, and he spoke out, right? Robert Woods, you and I both like Robert Woods. He is well into his career, so you're not getting the Robert Woods of 4 or 5 years ago, sadly, because he's a guy I'd always liked to have seen on Seattle. Dan Moore left. You were happy about that.
Woo!
Right? Yeah. You didn't bring that up. James Daniels, he left. He went to the Dolphins and
coming off a ruptured Achilles.
Made some money. I'm surprised that he made as much as he did. Ogunjobi was gone. I know that you were a fan of his. Dante Jackson, Najee, of course, you had mentioned him already. I guess I didn't even realize that Mike Williams was on their team at the end of the season. So that's kind of funny. I didn't know that. But the Steelers are in one of those positions, um, like the Ravens and things, to where they have to pay a lot of their players at a premium, and so sometimes they have to let players go. They do have a lot of youth on the team. They just filled it in with a lot of venerable. So let's get into their draft. And I'll preface this by saying that one of us on this podcast right now is a lot bigger fan of Derek Harmon than the other. Now, anybody that can guess who is the fan and who isn't, good on you.
Did I make it that obvious?
You sense the tone of this pod tonight, but I love Derek Harmon. I think that he is going to be spectacular. He's strong as an ox. He's great at QB pressures. You know, I'm not comparing him to this player because I have the utmost respect for this player, but I feel that there will be comparisons to him and Cam Hayward when things are all said and done. I really do.
Okay. Well, I'll actually give some in depth now that my blood pressure is back to a normal rate. My issue with Harmon, and it was very clear, I don't like him in run defense. And the Steelers' whole offseason goal was to improve in run defense. I do not feel like this is a pick that makes you better in run defense. As we talked about during the draft class, when you had him drafted to the Chiefs, I like that because I looked at the Chiefs. Okay, they're really stout up front. He adds something to the pass rush. The Steelers do not need to add stuff to the pass rush. They need to add stuff to the run defense. That's why this pick, I didn't like it. And not to throw back now, you trade Minkah Fitzpatrick. There was a guy you could have drafted there. And Malachi Starks, who could have been your next guy. The team construction really made me not like this pick. And Harmon, heard nothing but good things about him as a person. When you really look into him, great character guy. And that was something the Steelers very much valued in this draft class, was high character players. I wish him nothing but the best. I hope I'm wrong.
One thing I'll say about the Minkah versus Malachi is Minkah didn't get traded until after the draft.
No, but there were rumors about them maybe looking to move off him before the draft.
Okay.
So,
yeah.
And just to bring this real back, because I can already see a comment, the reason why Minkah Fitzpatrick's turnovers were down was because the Steelers were playing him so back off the line of scrimmage that he was eliminating the deep plays. Just had to get that in there because that was a big comment on Steelers fans when he was traded.
All right. Number 3 in the third round, Caleb Johnson. You had already mentioned that you really liked him. Bigger back, 6'1", 224.
Good burst.
Physical. So I mean, he's going to be backing up Jaylen Warren.
He might be the starter by the start of the season, it sounds like.
Well.
Here's the one thing I will say. Probably really rod the passing offensive game plan just because he comes from Iowa. Iowa's passing offense is really bad. Really, really bad. So they don't really run a lot of reps with them out there. He has limited experience, would be the best way to put it.
Well, and that's fine. Jaylen Warren is a great pass protector. So, that's Jack Sawyer. Obviously, you said you're not really a fan of him.
So I'm not anti the player. I'm anti the position because he's not an edge. His hands are too slow to be an edge in the NFL. You know who he's a lot alike and how people are going to try and use him? He's a lot like Cassius Marsh.
Well, that's a name from the past.
But that's what he is. He's a run-defending edge that can apply no pressure off the edge. I know people are going to say, well, his pressure rate was up higher, and it's ironic when Steelers fans use pressure rate, but his pressure rate was up higher at Ohio State his last year. Look at that Ohio State defensive line. I could have got pressure off of it with how many other guys got attention.
One thing that you'll say, though, just to kind of bring this back full circle, the one thing you did say already is that they don't need pass rushers. They need run defenders, and he's a pretty good run defender. So if he can set the edge, then, I mean, that's good value, right? Because okay. You don't.
But question, are you going to take Alex Highsmith or TJ Watt off the field to set the edge?
No. No.
If they bulk him up, move him inside, I think it's a good pick. If they don't, I really don't like it.
Yaya Black. No, he is not svelte, but
He's
I mean,
big.
he's a nose tackle, right? He's plugging up the middle.
He's actually never played nose tackle.
Well, that's what he was drafted as.
So he never played nose tackle at Iowa. They're just experimenting this here. He was a D end at Iowa.
At that size? Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Strong guy at the point of attack. The problem is he has no movement.
That's that's hard to believe then that he'd be a DN if he's got no movement. So part of the part of the DK that you loved prior to paying was that they got a 6th round pick back. They used that for Will Howard, who you obviously weren't a fan of, but
who might not even make the team now.
Oh, really?
He is dealing with a fractured hand, and Skylar Thompson got his reps in the preseason game and looked really good as the QB3.
Interesting. They would stick him into the practice squad. I know you're not a fan of him, but I definitely think that he can be a backup. So it was interesting. I did not know until I was actually doing my prep for the pod that Bruner was actually, Mark Bruner's kid. And
did you feel old?
Well, I love Mark Bruner. So yeah, I was like, oh my gosh. Yeah. But, so that's pretty interesting, but I didn't realize that Bruner was drafted by the Steelers because he played for a lot of teams.
So you do know Mark Bruner is a scout in the Steelers organization, correct?
No, I did not know that either.
Yep. Fun little fact.
Interesting.
Here's the thing with Carson Bruner. He may not make the team. I've seen a lot of people compare it. He is in a position battle to be a special teams linebacker. So I can't get too mad at the pick. It's just kind of the thought process to me that really irked me with a draft I already didn't like.
And then Dante Kent. Neither one of us know a lot about him.
He was primarily a nickelback in college. That's around all I can give you. He has some fine film, and then he has some very bad film.
He spent a lot of time as a punt returner. So more than likely, developmental special teamer. He'll probably get sent to the practice squad and then get called up if they need somebody for special teams.
Yep. And
all right. So let's get into we'll skip all of the good stuff and we'll get into what do you think Baltimore needs to do before the season starts to kind of round out their team.
Cornerback. I'm just not a fan of their cornerbacks. Marlon Humphreys is not the same player he used to be. Jair Alexander, very talented guy when he's on the field, but he does have a lot of injury issues. I'm just not certain of that cornerback position.
So I have two. I have secondary help, but I also have waiver wire running back. This is shocking. I understand coming from me.
Finally, on the Derrick Henry's going to fall off bandwagon. It took
one
you
of the
long enough.
Biggest Derrick Henry homers on this planet, but if you want to keep him strong and everything else, you need to have more viable depth behind him. So that's what I have. So for the Bengals, 3 words: defense, defense, defense.
I have 4 words.
Oh.
Defender with a pulse.
Okay, well, all their defenders have a pulse, but
They need some new ones.
Browns. I'm not even going to take the low hanging fruit and say a quarterback that can actually play. I picked a swing O lineman, and the reason why is because over the last couple of years they've actually started out kind of decently, but their offensive line gets hurt and they don't have the depth because of their cap hell to to kind of just survive, and then their makeshift quarterback crew or makeshift quarterback stable or whatever you want to say just gets obliterated. So they need swing O-line, and I'm not just saying tackles. I'm just saying the fact that they have Tevin Jenkins as their backup guard just honestly just solidifies my point that they need more developed offensive linemen.
For them, I had a receiver, but if not, nothing works because the rebuild is underway.
Yeah, I would say I would agree there. You've already said like 52 things for the Steelers, and sadly, there's only 53 players on
I
the
have a 53rd team. Don't worry.
So I picked running back or DB. And the reason why I picked running back is because I know that there was a little bit of talk about Jalen being kind of hurt. And I don't really like their depth. I know you really, really like the rookie. But I mean, Gainwell, he's a third down guy, right? They have Trey Sermon, who you loved.
Talk about my miss. Woof.
Oh yeah, I mean that guy was the next Derrick Henry in your eyes. So I mean,
I blame Kyle Shanahan. That's who I blame.
Yeah, Trey's been on a couple other teams since then. So.
And they all suck. And I can use the same excuse here for the offensive coaching in Pittsburgh because my thing to do is fire Arthur Smith into the sun.
Well, that seems a little bit extreme.
Extreme is watching his offensive play calling.
All right. So let's go with the draft.
Hang on. I have best moves made by these teams in the offseason.
Okay.
Baltimore Ravens, Devil Magic draft.
Yep.
Self-explanatory. Cincinnati Bengals paid some players, don't agree with it, but they did something. Cleveland Browns trading down from 2. I talked about that already. I think it was a really good move for them.
Yeah, no, I'd agree with that.
Pittsburgh, the one move I actually liked was trading away George Pickens.
Yeah, and that actually I think made a lot of sense just because I can't imagine the conflict the first time that he did not run the route that Aaron Rodgers wanted him to run. So
it would have been our one time to see Aaron Rodgers get punched in the face. How dare they take that from us? Never mind, it's a bad move.
All right, so let's talk about the draft order. Let's go worst to first.
Don't you want to do awards first?
No, I want to save the awards for the end because, I think that's going to be.
You think everything else is chalk?
I don't know. But so anyway, worst to first in the draft. Who do you have as the worst draft?
The Bengals.
I am 100% in agreement with you. And then
Steelers.
And then the Browns, and then the Ravens.
Actually, no. Ravens, Browns. And I was very tempted to put Ravens at first because of their first 2 picks. But I overall just loved what the Browns did in the draft so much. They addressed quarterback twice. They addressed running back twice. They got 2 players I really love at the running back position. Gabriel, I am higher on than most people. I accept that. They took Mason Graham, who I do like a good bit. I just loved their draft.
No, and that's completely fair. Adding another first-round pick does help, right? So considering you, didn't really give up that much because you weren't going to take, I don't think that they would have taken the receiver. Everybody wanted them to, but I don't think so. Okay, so let's go with coaches because this is interesting. Just by the way you've been talking, I would be 100% I'm willing to say that if I had put money earlier today on your coaches, I'm pretty sure I would have been wrong tonight. So,
Okay,
uh,
what do you think my order is?
what do I think your order is?
Mm-hmm.
I think your order is going to be Ravens, Browns, Steelers, Bengals.
You'd be correct. And I love Tomlin. I think Tomlin is maybe the best head coach in this division because he squeezes blood from a stone. That being said, I looked at the other staff options. Baltimore, I think they got better coordinators. Cleveland, I think they have a better coordinator. I'm not the biggest Tommy Reese guy, but I do prefer Tommy Reese over Arthur Smith. And Schwartz is a veteran coach that we know with what he's gonna do. Then I looked at the Steelers. Terrell Austin, I don't mind Terrell Austin. I know a lot of people want him fired. Do I think he's the right guy for Tomlin? No. So I had to knock them for that. And Arthur Smith, I think I've made my feelings very clear on him. And the Bengals, I'm sorry, they struggled to start out the season every single year. It's the same damn story, and a lot of that comes on preparation and how the coaches work. I don't think Zach Taylor's all that great of a head coach, and he's being carried along by Joe Burrow.
So the one difference, and I have the exact same order you have, but I would say I'm going to stick with Harbaugh as the best coach, the best head coach in that division.
That's very fair. Just the reason why I will say that is Tomlin does more. Okay, he does really good with less than I've seen Harbaugh do it. I've seen Harbaugh have less and really struggle. Not saying I wouldn't mind the Steelers struggling this year, but that's just how I valued it as I looked at past.
I think the Ravens turn things around a lot quicker though. So, but okay, so order of the division, I let you go with the coaches. So I'm going to go with the order that I think it's going to be, and I think it's going to be Ravens, Bengals, Steelers, Browns, and I'm pretty sure you probably have the same.
Chalk, and I wrote this down because really we kind of started pieces. I want to take the Bengals to make the playoffs, but I don't know if I can trust them.
That's why they paid so much money. All right. So your defensive rookie of the year.
Mike Green.
I'm guessing it's not going to be Derek Harmon.
No, it's Mike Green, and the reason why is because he is such a dynamic pass rusher. I was debating between the two Ravens draft picks here, honestly. And this not shot against Mason Graham or anything. I just look at what the position they were put in. I really wanted to go Malachi Starks, but I was also like, you look at that. Kyle Hamilton's going to get a lot of the praise there just because he's the veteran. Then I look at the Ravens pass rushing unit, and I'm like, they don't really have that top-tier pass rusher, and I feel like Mike Green can really become that by the end of the season.
Fair enough. I have Mike Green as well. Offensive rookie of the year.
I gave a cop-out answer here. I said Browns running back because of the system. Dylan Sampson or Quinshon Judkins, whoever is the starter there, I think has better success.
So I removed, like I said, I didn't talk about Quinshon Judkins. I don't think he's going to play this year. So I had Dylan Sampson or Caleb Johnson.
And I would maybe go Caleb Johnson here, but the reason why I wouldn't is Isaac Seumalo has been injured a lot recently. He's dealing with the injury right now. Spencer Anderson is not an NFL-worthy guard. And if he's out and with Arthur Smith relying as much as he does on guards blocking, Mason McCormick struggled a good bit rush with the running game last year. I think we could see some struggles there from Caleb Johnson, especially because he will split reps with Jaylen Warren. I had to give it to the Browns running back, and mainly Dylan Sampson, because I think he's who will be the
guy I think so year. Too. Defensive player of the year?
I wanted to get crazy here. I didn't want to say the same answer I've said for years of TJ Watt or Myles Garrett. You can't pick either. I wanted to get crazy. So I went Kyle Hamilton.
That's where you and I differ. I can't go away because who do you think is going to be the defensive player of the year? You don't really think Kyle Hamilton is. You just don't want to say Myles Garrett or TJ Watt.
Pretty much.
And I respect that, but I'm just not like that. So I picked Myles Garrett. And then your offensive player of the year.
So with how I do this, I don't give it to quarterbacks. So I just looked at the best offensive player that's not a quarterback in this division. I landed on Jamar Chase.
Can totally see that. I picked Lamar.
I mean,
And then for your MVP,
so I had a debate about this, and it was between two players, between Lamar Jackson and Joe Burrow. I nearly went Joe Burrow because I was like, well, who's going to win more games without the other one? I can see Baltimore winning some games because that team's really good otherwise. I don't know how many games the Bengals would win without Joe Burrow. But at the end of the day, I just went with Lamar Jackson because I feel like that team's the one that's going to win the division. So I'm just going to give him the benefit of the doubt.
see, I picked Burrow for a lot of the same reasons that you did. I think that most valuable player is, judging about the wins that person is going to bring that team, right? The old adage before, my big argument was like when Russell Williams, what the heck? Russell Wilson was with Seattle in kind of his heyday, and he wouldn't even get like an MVP vote, but Rodgers was getting them and Brady was getting them. And I'm like, guys, remove Russell Wilson from how horrid those offenses were. And what do you have? You had nothing. He was, single-handedly, getting them to win. Whereas, Green Bay, and they had proved that they could win because they had solid offensive lines and solid players. So I just think that Burrow does. I mean, yeah, he's got two amazing receivers, right? But he doesn't have an offensive line. He doesn't really have a running back. I mean, all it is it's a 7-on-7 drill, except he's playing 7-on-11. So, yeah.
That is very fair, and it's part of the point. I can't agree with the most valuable player should go to the guy that you're moving from the team. And listen, you can make the case you remove any star quarterback from their team. They're obviously worse, yes. But this is something, and I think I'm just going to throw it back to a different sports MVP award. The NHL does it better, in which they really just don't care about the records of how good the team was or not. They just go like, hey, we removed this guy from the team. How much worse are they? And that's how they really gave out the award. And it didn't matter the impact they had on the season. But a lot of that, they gave the award to Connor McDavid 2 years in a row where his team didn't even make the playoffs.
Yeah, well, that doesn't happen in the NFL. It's because it's media driven. So,
which is weird because you would think more media hype would be around Burrow just with how he carries that corpse of a franchise.
I would love to see the most valuable player picked by the head coaches.
That would be fascinating. They should make an award for that, just like the head coach picked award or whatever. But that's gonna wrap us up for today. I felt like I vented a good bit. I don't know why. I feel like this weight is off my shoulders. I want to smile more. I feel happier. But like I said, this is going to wrap us up. This is the AFC North divisional preview. The next one will be the NFC North, as we are almost done with these. And it feels like earlier this week we were like, okay, we got to start getting these out, pump them out. We've caught up pretty good. We're on schedule. And we just look at these other divisions. Which of the three remaining divisions are you most excited to talk about?
Oh, that's a tough one. If I have teams to talk about, I would say that the Patriots are intriguing, the Bills are intriguing, the NFC East. I mean, there's a lot going on there, right? So, there's just a lot of different things. The North, I think the NFC North, so far as the three that we have left, might be the most up in the air, simply because a lot of the teams have a lot of turnover, change, right? I mean, significant changes, quarterback. With Detroit, they lost their entire, OC and DC crew. So there are so many significant changes in that division that it can be completely topsy-turvy. So maybe that one's the one that I'm looking forward to talking about the most, just because right now no one knows.
Yep, and that's very fair. I think there's some very interesting teams to talk about as well, but I would have to agree with you. I am most excited to talk about the AFC North. Also for the fact, I think all those teams in the division had really good draft classes. Really fun, talented guys that we get to talk about. And as this channel has a lot of draft content, we love talking about the NFL draft, so that's always the sticking point for us. But I hope you all enjoyed. Check out some other videos. The playlist on the screen right now is 32 and 32 days, 32 team previews. Every single team is in that playlist. Did it all myself. I loved it. You want to listen to me rampage about the Steelers more, Ravens, Browns, Bengals fans, click on that video. It is 20 minutes of me losing my ever-loving mind. I hope you all enjoyed this. Thank you very much for watching. Subscribe if you haven't already. Like this video. Go down in the comment section if you have any disagreements. And just overall, have a great day, everyone.